they say all men are created equal. Shaq Master! I'll pull out the Glock. Full of suffering, succotash, son.
It's one of your nuts hanging out of your shorts.
Real glass.
You have a father, but your father's dead.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Too Sweet podcast with Lucy and Estelle. And wow, I mean, I know we've both literally just finished watching this week's Dynamite and then come straight into doing this. And I think we both said before we started recording, like, we're not even processed what we've just witnessed. But yeah, our last video was the Forbidden Door review, so this was the fallout from that. And God, what a follow-up.
I know, I mean, just chaos. And also thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed to the channel. We noticed from the Forbidden Door video that, we got quite a spike. It seems to always happen during pay-per-views. I'm not sure if because the pay-per-views trend and then maybe our videos kind of, not that our videos trend, but like they're more likely to get into the algorithm. So, and also thank you to all the people who've been long-time subscribers and have continued to engage. We're really, really grateful. And because we're like a small channel, we notice everything. Like we notice every view and every subscriber and every comment. Like it means so much. So I just wanted to say a big thank you for that. And also, I have not processed what I've just watched. So I'm going to be like, this is like a therapy session for us. I feel like.
Yeah, we've got to get it off our chest. Like it's just the reaction, the straight up reaction. Yeah, I mean, Forbidden Door was really good. And again, just echo what you said, like thank you all so much for the engagement on that video. That was so much fun to make, and it was longer than our normal stuff because there was so much that happened on that show. And then to follow that up with this week's episode, it was, I mean, I expected a lot to go down because it was a stacked card, like, to begin with. But yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, like you knew going in you were going to get the Britt Baker return,
Mm-hmm.
and you knew you were going to get the Jeff Jarrett wild card, and I'd kind of theorized that it was Adam Page. So like I feel like I manifested that. But you knew you were getting that, but then we got even more. And it's like you say, Forbidden Door was so good, and that was the fallout, but it was like the fallout of all the AEW stuff and also all the all-in stuff, which we're super invested in naturally because we're going. So yeah, and I just mean that ending, wow. We'll get to it when we get to the ending, because we're traditional and linear like that, so you're gonna have to watch the whole thing to get there. But my God, who would have thought? I mean, I knew the heel turn was coming, but I just didn't know it was coming like that tonight
right.
or last night.
Yeah, it definitely. Well, to an extent, I sort of, from this beginning bit that we're about to get into, I was a bit like,
the foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll just get to the beginning then. Might as well just start talking about it. So first of all, it opened up with Renee, which was lovely to see her presence back on screen. Like I said, she wasn't really there for 0 hour.
Love her.
Yeah. And also, just quickly, I wonder when they're going to start featuring Alicia more, like on Dynamite, because I haven't really seen her on Wednesday. So
yeah, where I think I've seen her do like online stuff. I feel like
I wonder if she's sort of like testing the waters. Maybe that makes sense, like before chucking her in.
Yeah, live TV. There you go.
I think I just want to see her like and Max together like on Dynamite just to see that dynamic, especially now he's here, like how they'll play that off. But yeah, anyway, we got Renee back, and she welcomed Daniel Garcia, and introduced him as the new backbone of AEW. I was like, I'm not really too sure about that. But then when this show ended, I was like, actually, like, yeah. Because while the ending made MJF a heel, like it really made a massive baby face out of Daniel, didn't it?
Yeah, it was big on the sympathy, big on the sort of underdog sort of thing, like from this beginning bit as well.
Yeah, so he was there with Daddy Magic, and they were just talking about the international title, and he put it on his mother's life. So I hope someone's checked on his mum, because
check on that woman.
And MJF came out and he asked to be in his corner, and it was a really wholesome little segment. But like you say, you knew there was going to be some kind of involvement with MJF, but I still wasn't thinking like, oh, he's going to beat up Daniel Garcia. I was thinking, oh, he's going to get involved with Osprey.
Right. Yeah, I was kind of theorizing that he was sort of going in it for his own gain, sort of. Yeah, like to go after Osprey, like make his own stake on the championship. But I just thought you don't just ask to be in someone's corner like innocently. MJF fucking doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah, so that just sort of set the tone. And then we jumped into, I mean, I've just realized like it's so fun like reviewing the notes because I'm like, oh yeah, Danielson versus Pac happened. Like I'm so overwhelmed by all this other shit. So yeah, this was for the Owen Hart tournament semi-final. Uh this was a really amazing match, as all the Owen Hart tournament matches have been. And we
Yeah.
also got the return of Shivani, which was lovely.
Yeah,
He finally got
I
his voice
wasn't
back.
sure if we were gonna get him back because it's quite soon, isn't it? Like, but yeah, glad he
Yeah,
did well.
yeah. So Danielson came out. He was bounded up by that neck tape, which, I
Yeah,
mean, it's a reoccurring injury, but God, that spot with Shingo when he was on the apron and then he
yeah,
was like onto the floor and just like his head just contorted inwards. It was awful. So yeah, playing upon that. And I thought this was a really evenly matched match. Their
yeah,
stature, they're both short kings.
yeah. We love short kings.
We
Yeah,
do.
and they're quite similar, I think, in terms of like the moveset and stuff, and
Yeah.
quite it was like a technical match. Obviously, Pac's a bit more high flying than Danielson, but um, yeah, they're very similar in stature and moveset. So yeah, it was quite it was really even, but I thought that Pac for the most part looked like had he was going to win. Like he looked so strong in this. He was targeting Brian's
You think
neck.
so?
He was tightening his neck so hard, like the tombstone and stuff.
You got worked, brother.
Yeah, I know. I am such a mark. I get worked all the time.
I was just like, he can't though, because Danielson's been on such a losing
Oh well,
streak, and I'm like, you
yeah,
can't have
true.
him lose again. But I get what
Yeah,
you mean.
it wasn't that I
Especially
was
the
like,
ending. The ending was shocking,
yeah,
with those submissions, and then my favorite one I think was the roll up, and then Pac turned that into the brutalizer.
yeah,
But it was just so like tight the way he got it in. I was like, ooh. And then the other ones that followed were also amazing. But that first one just took me by surprise.
yeah,
Took the rug from underneath me, I think, when I saw that. I was like, oh, so good. But yeah, they were almost like trying to one up each other like throughout the whole match.
yeah.
Um, really, just bringing out the best of each other. This whole tournament, like back to back's been great. I wish that maybe when they go on a streaming service, like the old Owen Hart tournaments and this one, they'll sort of do a compilation and you can just binge watch it because I would love to do that. Like
That would be
just
nice.
binge watch exclusively those matches
I bet
because
that's something they
it'd
could
be
maybe do
amazing.
on their YouTube channel as well. Like just make a
Yeah,
playlist.
even their YouTube channel. They recently did one a couple of months ago, or a couple of weeks ago. Actually, I haven't watched it about a month ago, I think. When Max returned and it was like MJF's whole career
Ah, yeah.
highlights and it was like 2.5 hours. I've got it in my like watch later. I will watch it at some point, as like a little self-care night.
I
But
love
I love that sort of stuff. Like,
yeah.
yeah, give us that kind of content, especially if like you don't have the streaming service. Like, you're totally right. You don't even need streaming service. Like, do on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, they do videos like that quite a lot. They did when Claudio and Eddie had their match. They put
Yeah, the long
all the
feud.
history of their feud in one big long video. I love that long form stuff. You can just like stick it on and you don't have to like just simply not being able not having to change the match. It just plays for you and it's in order. It's great. I love stuff like that.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, like you say, it was super technical, lots of wrist control, especially in the first half. Just that subtle technical wrestling. But then it really amped up and then they were just all over the place. They were outside the ring more than they were inside the ring, quite frankly.
Mm,
Um, and Pac, like you said, Pac was so aggressive targeting that neck. And I think for me, a key point was when The ref was like trying to give him a breather, check on him, and Pac just wouldn't let him.
Yeah.
Went
Yeah.
to attack him and then threw him out of the ring and just continued the assault afterwards. And it was like those moments that really, sucked you in. And you knew logically, like I say, like I'm too logical sometimes. I need to, what's the word? Feel more, think less.
Yes.
But like,
Follow
I can
your own
still get like
advice.
carried away. Yeah, I
Oh
should.
yeah. It got super like yeah, like you say, it sucked you in because it did get really intense. I liked the way they paced it. Like I think I've just quickly like looking at some of the like results and whatever just to see what other people were saying just on Google whatever. It's like oh the pace was maybe a bit slower than we expected. It's like well
Who's saying that?
it's not gonna fucking kick off like fucking a million miles an hour, you know. It that's just how
Yeah, they don't. I think like that type of match style should be like for when they absolutely despise each other. Like you look later
yeah
at Willow and Stat, and they were straight on each other.
yes
Um, that's to me like a culmination of tension. Whereas like the tournament style match, like I've said before, it's about putting your opponent away as quickly as possible. And yeah, that might mean in some instances just jumping on them and thrashing the shit out of them.
mm,
But for Pac and Danielson, who are quite intelligent and they're savage, but in an intellectual way, like their characters are gonna, that's not their characters. So I
yeah
just don't
right.
understand that criticism.
No, I didn't either. I thought the same thing. I didn't get that impression at all when I was watching it. And like, I love, I mean, like, technicals wrestling is probably my favorite style of wrestling, so I do really enjoy it anyway. But I can understand
And you're
that,
watching two of the best as well doing
yeah,
that style that you love so much.
exactly. But then they did kick it up to that violent sort of notch as well. It's like you said, like tournament, you'd feel your opponent out first, and then because they made a point on commentary that they've only faced each other one on one twice before.
Really?
Yeah, they said that right at the start of the match, which was really interesting to me. Um,
Yeah, they need to have more because
yeah,
this was fucking phenomenal.
yeah, it was a really good match. But yeah, it was
But yeah,
Brian who ended up winning. So, and it was a roll up, wasn't it? They were doing like a series of roll ups and
yeah, roll ups and like submissions.
Mhm.
Uh, but it was with I think a roll up because he'd like add him in a few label locks and then
Yeah,
finally got him in the roll up in that sort of quick, abrupt finish. But as we've said before, it works for the format that is a tournament.
exactly.
You
Yeah,
can get away with that because it's heated and like at the start, what I love about it is at the start they're collected and they're doing wrist locks and they're trying to win technically, but by the end it's just a scramble to victory. Like that's
yeah,
so cool.
yeah,
That's such a cool way of like doing it and the right way of doing it.
yeah. 100% agree. It's like you want to pick up the victory sort of any way you can.
Perfect structure. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Um, so yeah, Danielson will take on either the winner between Jay White and, as we now know, Hangman. So, I mean,
Wow.
let's just talk about those brackets for a second. Like, without getting into Hangman's return, putting our emotions aside,
Mhm.
I feel like Hangman has to win the whole thing now. But like, my heart wants Jay White,
Oh,
but
okay.
my heart also wants Danielson.
Yeah, yeah,
But I'm
yeah.
like, there's no way. So like, he's just gonna steamroll him. But either way, we're gonna get amazing matches.
We're
I can't wait
winning.
for this Saturday. We're
We're eating no
winning.
matter what.
Yeah, and I thought like after this match was over, I thought, you know what? If for this rest of this show we just get matches that are of this high quality, I don't even care.
Hmm.
I don't even care. Like I just give me like this and I'll be very happy. And then we got so much more. It was like Christmas. We're absolutely spoiled. So then we got into some more great wrestling and a great story. We had Renee asking Willow about the stat match that was coming up next. Willow talked about her like motto, which is smile anyway, like a mantra, and gave a really great fighting babyface promo. And I thought it was so great because like it was a great tribute to Owen Hart, I thought, for the tournament, and I
Mm.
feel like she's given like the most shades of like Owen Hart and paying like the most tribute, even if it's like unintentional, like really capturing the spirit. Um, so I really
Fighting
enjoyed
spirit.
that, and yeah, that fighting spirit.
Yeah, I love this promo. It just warms up my heart so much. And I'm gonna need Smile anyway on a t-shirt. Like just you can just
Yeah,
take my money right now.
yeah. It was like a bit cheesy, like babyface, but then it was so cool at the end. You're like,
Yeah,
yeah, smile anyway. Like,
she's like, yeah, it is a bit cheesy, but she's also you believe her when she says she's gonna beat
yeah,
someone up, sort of thing. Um, she's not. I mean, I don't like making this comparison, but it draws comparisons to Bailey when she was doing her hugger thing. I mean, I feel like with
yeah,
that, it was a little bit, you sort of a bit like, well, can you actually win? Can you, like, are you actually tough? But I never get that with Willow.
yeah.
She's
Willow's got more
positive.
edge,
Yeah,
and she's got the perfect blend, hasn't she?
yeah, she's like got a positive mindset and she's happy, but it's like a means to an end to like get inside the ring and win and be successful. And like you say, she got that edge.
Yeah, but like with the Bailey character was really cool because when it first came about, there was nothing like that.
Hmm.
You know, that was the first time, and especially for young girls, like children, like for that demographic, like a female Cena, like that just didn't exist.
Yeah,
So it
so
was really
true.
cool to see that, but she kind of had a character in a corner because she had to turn heel because no one like there's only so much you can take that seriously, and like you say, the believability to win.
Yeah.
Um,
Not to say that she didn't do like really well, and I
no,
do
it's just
really
like
enjoy
not as
it.
much longevity, I think,
Yeah,
is the
exactly.
point in the character.
Yeah, very true.
But yeah, then there was a little ladder match recap, the footage from Forbidden Door, and we got a Matt Briscoe promo. They call me a chicken, but I ain't scared of shit. You know, get that on a t-shirt. I wrote, if I had Matt Briscoe's accent, I'd never shut up. Like, if that was my voice, I'd just talk absolute shit all the time as well, you know.
But it made that
Uh,
increase the quality of this podcast by about 100 times.
yeah, we'll just get like Matt Briscoe AI voice changes on.
Sounds good.
He did an English literature analogy of Shark Week, and he got that to blood and guts because he just kept analysing it. It was like an English teacher, like, well, sharks smell blood, blood in the water, blood and guts. I was loving it. Anyway, he declared himself as the first declared member of Team AEW for Blood and Guts. I didn't even think about Blood and Guts, like, oh my God, yeah, that's the next thing. And it makes perfect sense for like the EVPs. I was saying before when Jack Perry won the title, like, oh, I wonder if they're going to cobble together another Team AEW, and yeah, for Blood and Guts. So, um, who do you think are the other is there six members, I think? Yeah. So who do you think are some of the other five members that we could be seeing on the Team AEW side?
Uh, God, I don't. When is Blood and Guts?
Isn't it like a couple of weeks?
Yeah, so it's pretty soon. God, I don't know. I'm not like you just said. I've not really thought about it all that much. Who was in the last Team AEW? Danielson was in that, right?
Kingston was big got pulled, didn't he?
Yeah. I wonder if Kingston will be fit and ready. Probably not.
Darby Allen.
Yeah, there's a lot of
I feel
injured
like
guys.
Darby's gonna come back.
Mm,
Somehow if he's injured, he'll be back. But yeah, like there's not a lot of top tier baby faces. I guess Osprey, like he's Daniel Garcia maybe.
yeah, yeah, I can see that.
Um yeah, it's not a lot of
Everyone's
like top tier faces, especially now Max has turned heel as well, because you could have done him because it's hard because it's like the elephant in the room trying not to talk about his heel turn, but you know, he came back with the whole tattoo of like bet on yourself. And that's like outside of kayfabe, obviously for personal sentimental reasons. It's not just for the character.
yeah,
But you know, and then 2 weeks later, or however many weeks it's been, like he's heel. And it's like, oh, you could have milked out of blood and guts. while
Yeah,
he's like
right.
in his like company stooge era. It
Yeah,
only lasted a
yeah,
couple of weeks.
yeah. And it's hard because there's so many people are doing really big other stuff, like really big other storylines. So you just like, do you want to give them this sort of side quest? But then you could like, it depends
Yeah.
how you do it though, because obviously you could interweave the stories in that match. So
I don't think Swerve would because I think, like you say, he'll have his own match at Blood and Guts. But
mm,
I wonder where his alliances actually are because, like, has that really been explored all that much? I don't think it
mm,
has.
yeah, or he's
Like
like,
to me, he's very much a tweener right now. Like
yeah,
he used to be like a baby face, but then I, he still is. He's such an interesting character because then Forbidden Door, he was not. He was more heel than Osprey. It was face v face, but he was more heel. But
mm,
then, like towards the end, he gave him that sort of fighting, encouraging speech.
yeah,
So it's like when he's in character and when he's in business mode, he's got no limits. So then I'm like, not that I think he'd fight for Team EVP, Team Elite, or all that, but I don't know. I just wonder like what is where he fits in the political landscape of AEW right now.
he's just kind of like he just to me he just gives the vibes of like an independent sort of
Yeah,
soul, just like free spirit, not affiliated type deal.
not with that low vibrational drama.
Mm,
Um, Yeah, so going back to what we're talking about, Jack Perry just straight up assaulted Matt Briscoe as soon as he
mm.
announced this would be his belt. Um, and Kyle O'Reilly came in to make the save because, well, I suppose, yeah, Kyle O'Reilly, stick him in Team AEW. He was
Oh
there.
yeah.
I forgot about that. He loves side quests, he collects them.
That's his side quest or his main quest, you
Yeah.
know?
So he came in to save his bestie. And then the Bucks came down to level it out, which once more brought in the favor of the elite. Um,
Yeah, Okada
oh,
gave him a
sorry.
fucking massive
Okada came out
rainmaker.
first.
Hmm.
Yeah. So Kyle came out. He's leveling the odds, but then Okada comes out. Yeah, just decks him with a rainmaker, and then
Kyle's
the
selling on
Bucks.
that was unbelievable, by the way. Like he just dead weighted that shit. So good.
He ate that. He ate that. It left no crumbs. The Bucks came down and they gave Matt Briscoe the EVP trigger, so just absolutely decimated them all. They all held up their gold. That was a really nice visual. It was nice to see that. Felt like a good payoff because yeah, they
Yeah.
have all won gold. And like I said before, I wanted to see more Jack Perry with the elite, like as a more complete entity. So I was happy that they did that.
Yeah,
And
altogether.
then our favorite tag team, the Acclaimed, came out, which chased off the elite because they're like, fuck this. Um, and yeah, then the graphic came up for Blood and Guts and said that there'll be other members of the. Sorry, I believe it is five. It is five in Blood and Guts. So who will be the four others in Team AW and who will be the uh, fifth of the elite, which was kind of, well, we don't know. That was semi-addressed earlier. But if it isn't Hangman, and if he does straight up refuse and they can't bribe him into it, who do you put? Do you put Christian Cage in there, maybe?
Yes, potentially, yeah. Because they've got that history, haven't they? With them like
Yeah.
having conversations and stuff. That would make sense. Yeah, probably that would be my pick, I think. But I mean, it's so interesting because you think maybe Hangman or I don't know.
Yeah. You yeah, you don't know with that. So then we got a little Tony and Mariah backstage interview. This was quite simple. Tony was just hyping her up. It was nice to see her be a positive mentor. She mentioned that Mina's cheering her on via satellite, which was cute. She was just kind of like cradled into like her chest like an infant and only like
Yeah,
came out
the
to like
bosom.
speak and then went back. It,
Yeah,
it, it was cute and it's just nice to just I feel like I've been a bit. I'm always like, oh, when are they going to break up? When are they going to break up? Because I'm just conditioned for that. I'm conditioned for instant dopamine. I'm like an iPad kid. And, but like the Forbidden Door match with Tony versus Mina and the finishing angle of that with them all hugging, and then just the way that there's been a little bit of tension, but not massive amounts. I believe like when the towel was thrown in, for instance.
Mm.
But they've always kind of overcome it and like brushed it off. And I kind of like appreciate that because like it's gonna be more shocking when they do eventually like break up.
Yeah,
I will actually be surprised, whereas before I wasn't.
yeah.
But I feel like sometimes it can be boring when there's a tag team that are together and you know they're going to break up and they tease tension for too long, which is
Mm.
kind of what I'm used to. But then it's like long-term storytelling. But I think I don't know, I'm just really enjoying this refreshing way of just keeping them together for a long time. Like Adam Cole and MJF, they teased that tension for a long time,
Mm.
which was cool and all, but it's nice to see them just be a unified team, I think.
Yeah, it is. And we said it in the Forbidden Door video that like it's just a refreshing. It's just different, and it's like it changes what it subverts your expectations, and in that way, it can be more effective and more shocking than if they one of them did turn on the other. And they've got a very it's very wholesome. It's very cute and it's entertaining as well.
But to disclose, the Owen Hart tournament, right? It gets you a shot at the world title, right? Or it gets
Yeah,
because
at
because you
Wembley,
get yeah. So then, if Mariah May wins the whole thing,
they're gonna
will
face
she
off.
versus? Yeah, they're going to face off. So that could also occur. So maybe we will see. But then I don't know. Do you do the breakup then, or do you just sort of do like a wholesome Adam Cole MJF thing of like they overcome it at the end and they hug it out?
Yeah, I can definitely sort of see I can see them facing off at Wembley and that being a big thing, and I think maybe that might be where Tony turns because I feel like people will probably cheer for Mariah in that situation, and Tony will be like, "Well, why I should be the one in the spotlight? She's stealing my spotlight," type of
Yeah,
deal, and she gets jealous. But
yeah,
you
that's
could
a great
do,
observation.
yeah, but you could do that like you said about the Adam Cole and Jeff situation where they come out and they're still friends, but I don't know. I feel like I don't know if that would work as well in this situation, but
Yeah, no, I like your idea more. Because it's like she's been upstaged and yeah, and I remember I can't remember if it was like before Forbidden Door or at some point, but she made a comment of like, I love her because she reminds me of me, and it's
yeah,
just like her becoming like her own entity sort of thing, and then outshining
yeah,
her outside of her persona. Yeah, definitely. But I also think that for All In, we're going to see a lot more women's matches, it seems like.
yes.
Last year, it was just the four-way, wasn't it?
Uh, so it's Soraya winning. That's one of the only things I remember.
Yeah, it was just a four-way with, like I said, Saraya won. I remember Britt Baker being in it.
Yeah,
I remember Sheeda being in it because Sheeda was champion and she was transitional champion. And
yeah,
I can't remember who the fourth was, apologies. And I'm pretty sure that was the only women's match. I don't even think there was
yeah,
even a pre-show women's match, to be honest with you.
yeah. I think you're right because there wasn't no. Yeah, you're right because there wasn't much on the pre-show. There was like one. It was the Jeff Jarrett match on the pre-show, wasn't it? And
And then
Miro
there was
doing a
that
thing.
Miro contract signing.
Yeah, and yeah, no, I think you're right. That I think that was the only women's match.
Yeah. So I think, wow, when you look at it like that, and especially this episode, and how excited and how well done the Monet and Britt Baker segment. And I'm sorry, guys, it's very difficult to not get ahead of ourselves here because it all kind of interlinks. But you compare the two and you think, my God, like how far we've come. And obviously there's still work to do, you know. the ideal world would be 50-50, 50%
Hmm.
women's matches, 50% men's. However, I don't want them to do that just for the sake of it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying do that right now for just a token show of feminism. Like,
Hmm.
like it's like a festival, like it should be 50% female artists, 50% male artists. But the thing is, like the female artists and in any art, whatever you want to, any form of media, they're not at that level of the men, not because they're good enough, but because they haven't been given enough of like a chance or enough of a showcase.
Yeah.
So don't
It's
just stick
not,
them on for the sake of it.
yeah.
But it's like this year at Wembley, like they've really earned it and they've really
Yes.
shown it. And I'm genuinely so excited. And yeah, I think, we're definitely going to get more than one, maybe
Sure.
three.
Yeah. I think so. I think that's what we're leading up to, aren't we? Because we've definitely got a Tony Storm match,
Yeah, we've got the
probably against,
TBS,
yeah,
the two titles, so you have to have one for each, don't you, surely?
yeah. And then you've got Chris and Willow as well. Yeah. I mean, I'd be annoyed at this point if we don't get those three, to be honest, because I feel like that's what we're obviously leading to. If they try and shoehorn one of them in before or something, or at that point, I'd just be frustrated.
Yeah. Um, and just yeah, we've been very critical of the booking of the women, so I just want to, point that out of just how great and the sign of him putting them on a big pay-per-view like Colin, I think just shows how much I know we're hypothesizing it'll be free, but I definitely think it'll be the two, and I think that just shows like how much faith he's put in them and that he's kind of seeing return on his stock sort of thing, which he
Yeah,
would do for a lot more of the women if he puts more into him. And I just hope this just keeps motivating him.
yeah,
But also, like as an audience, we have to cheer it on and support it. And I'm not saying like support it when it's bad or cheer it on when it's bad, but just really make a point of acknowledging when it's good.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, but we're gonna be loud at Wembley.
Oh, we will, we will. No toilet breaks. Maybe for Jericho. Maybe that'll be our toilet break. So speaking of which, we then got the Statlander versus Willow match, which was for the Owen Hart tournament, also semi-final in the women's bracket. And I believe it was Willow coming out. Stat had already came out, and Stat just goes to instantly get on Willow,
Yeah,
assault her,
start.
blindside her. And Willow strikes back because she's anticipated this, and she almost like spears, shoves her down the ring, and Statlander just rolls and rolls and rolls and just hits uh the LED display board around the ring. It was quite something for sure.
Yeah, I love the sudden start. Because like yeah, Willow hadn't even finished her entrance, like her music was still playing. Um, yeah, very cool. Very like just you can feel that bad blood between them from the start.
Yeah, and neither of them got a pin on each other at Forbidden Door. And also you got to think in kayfabe terms, Willow's just had this promo and Statland's probably fuming. And then she's
Yes.
coming out like all smiling. She's like, don't you be smiling, bitch.
Yeah.
So, and it just really set the tone for the match. Kind of picked up from what it was like on the
Mm.
Forbidden Door pre-show of just pure aggression, pure hatred, and not only in the expressions and the contempt at which they held each other, but also the offense, which
Yes.
was that snap suplex on the floor.
Yeah.
Um, and also just credit to Statlander and how strong she is. Like, I'll never not pop
Mhm.
at her lifting Willow. Like, she's so strong.
Yeah. It's
And
it's impressive
it's,
no matter how many times you see it.
yeah, it's just great. I'm sure Willow's also like helping her out in those types of moves, but it's it was just great, but it was quite short.
Mm.
So, like I say, there was a lot of like aggressive offense, and we had a few. We had like I don't know, maybe it was like 10 minutes or something. Stokely was on the outside, and he left a chain for Statlander to use. She goes to grab it, and then I can't remember. Did they get rid of the chain? And then she was like arguing with someone. She was arguing with the ref or Stokely.
Yeah. Yeah, and then that's
Yeah, because she didn't get a chance to use it. Um,
yeah.
and Willow instantly rolled her up with the distraction and took the win.
Hmm.
So what was your initial reaction to this quick match that we've anticipated so much?
Well, my reaction was right that there's unfinished business because of the way it ended, and to be honest, I was just glad 'cause I was like, great, we'll see a rematch. That was honestly my reaction. Um,
They're
I
so
didn't.
level-headed.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really think about it in terms of, oh, that was short, that was a shame. I just, to me, that just said to me that they need to fight again because it was a clean finish, but it had shenanigans and Statlander's not going to be happy with that. So yeah. How about you?
Yeah, at first I was a bit pissed off about it because like I'm just hot-headed. I was just thinking like,
Mhm.
no, no, I need more. Like that was so good. Like that was the best we've
It
seen
was
them both with each other.
it was really good.
And
Yeah.
I just wanted it to keep going,
Mm.
keep going through the gears as it were. But then, I thought about it and I was like, oh yeah, this means we're gonna get more. Like, probably at Wembley. Hopefully if they can just keep on elongating the feud out. Maybe there's some kind of stipulation at Wembley where to amp it up even more, we do like a no disqualification or a street fight or
Oh
something
yeah. Oh yeah.
along that nature.
I think
Because they can definitely pull
yeah.
it off.
I think getting that chain involved is maybe a bit of hinting towards that.
Foreshadowing. Yeah. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, it's also for like a tournament. So it wasn't like a one-on-one. Well, it was a one-on-one, but the
It
intention wasn't to
wasn't
end the score.
Yeah,
It
it
was just
wasn't
they
a
just so
grudge match.
happened to meet and they're rivals. And like I said, the shenanigans, and she just caught her off guard. And like I said, Statlander's not going to be happy about that. So,
It
but
wasn't the
yeah, it was
grudge match. It was the tournament
no,
match.
yeah,
So you need that grudge match to end it once and for all. And that should be on the biggest stage possible.
yeah. It truly does deserve it.
Hmm.
You know, what do you prefer? Because we've got two kind of friends to enemies situations. We've had Trent Beretta and Orange Cassidy and Willow and Statlander. Which one do you think's done it better?
Uh, I'm gonna say Willow and Stat just because
Yeah.
I think I know a lot of people will probably really disagree because I know that Orange Cassidy evokes a lot of strong emotions from a lot of people, which is fair enough. And I like him, but I remember like how I felt when Chris turned on Willow, and I just was like genuinely surprised and genuinely heartbroken. Um, I love how Stokely's been getting involved, and I think it's got more momentum, to be honest.
Yeah, it's had better pacing. I thought the pacing
Yeah.
for Trent Beretta and Orange Cassidy wasn't necessarily that the feud was bad or the tension's bad, or it was still quite shocking when he turned, but then
Mm.
getting the Don Callis family involved just made it really convoluted. And like I said, I do think that the Willow and Stat one is better, and as such, they should keep that like say momentum going, all the way to All In.
Maybe Orange Cassidy will be in Team AEW. That's just coming to my head.
Yeah,
Just talking
yeah, for
about him
sure.
because we haven't. He wasn't on this episode. Um, so I think
He's
that's
always
why.
just one of them. You all reliable, and he
Yeah.
got his number on speed dial.
Yeah.
After that, we got another backstage interview, but like I say, it worked really well. I think the simple backstage interview of just having one interviewer throughout the night, it's great and it pays, homage to a lot of vintage, might hurt some people's
Classics.
feelings calling like 80s classic wrestling of just, yeah, like what you'd have seen on WWF and WWE, but not even that, just even like in the territories wrestling, like the simplistic one question. It's
Yeah, so
it's just
true.
one of those things that's tried and true. It's just simple. You use it in wrestling shows all over, and it just works really well. I much prefer that than having multiple interviewers who were all just really pretty women
Yeah.
or generic man
Generic dude, yeah.
that just interchange with no
Mhm.
personality. Like, I'd much rather have Renee throughout the whole night.
Yeah, well, it works from like a sport perspective, and like just you have this one reporter who, like, if you think about it in kayfabe, it's like walking around backstage trying to get the best scoops type of
Yeah.
situation. I guess if I did have one criticism of this show, it was that in this sort of middle part that we're at, it was sort of like promo after promo after promo, which is like it's fine because there was really good wrestling on the show to make up for it. It didn't. It just felt like there was quite a lot in one go, just in this middle bit. I don't know if you got that sense as well.
No, I didn't, but I think I was just having fun, so I wasn't really
Mm,
thinking about it. I think if I'd thought
yeah.
about if that had thought of been like that type of thing once it enters your head and then you know it, you're like you can't unknow it, and then you're just
Mm.
thinking about it. But yeah, I was just having fun with it really. Anyway, Team TNA, Jeff Jarrett's there, and like I say, Renee asks about the Owen Hart tournament and what it means for him to compete. Basically, no sells it, just walks off. Lethal and Sanjay, um, just establish Jeff Jarrett and Owen Hart's friendship. Later on in commentary, they note the statistic that they teamed together for 70 matches. So I just think, like, even though Hangman's return overshadowed Jeff Jarrett being in it, and I mean, not that Jeff Jarrett was ever going to, no, we're marks for Jeff Jarrett, but not that he was ever going to be like the star and he was going to win
Mm.
it. But I thought it was nice that they just weaved that in and kept that like it's almost like a subplot of the match
Yeah,
and keeps the actual spirit of the tournament alive.
yeah, exactly. It validated why he was in the tournament, and it gave him reason to really fight for it, which when we get into the match we'll talk about. But yeah, it yeah, it gave him that validation. I did think it was interesting that he didn't talk in this interview. Like, why do you think that was? Because I was just a bit confused by it. I was like, surely
I think
those
it's just too
words.
emotional
Yeah, yeah, right.
and almost like no word speaks more than loads.
I feel like just those words about him being friends with Owen Hart maybe would have been stronger coming from him, but that's like
Yeah,
that's nitpicking. Like,
maybe
I'm
he
not.
just couldn't though, like as a person. That's the only because
Yeah,
I agree that would have been better to have that, but maybe like he just
maybe
couldn't in that
genuinely.
moment.
Yeah, I mean that's fair enough.
Because that is a real friendship and
True.
like it's not
Totally.
just like
It's not
made
just
up
a
so
wrestling
you don't know.
storyline. It's real life.
Everything's just wrestling storyline. No one's got emotions.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree that would have been probably more, but maybe then we would have us ourselves would have been breaking out the tissues. But
hmm
yeah, yeah, I can't. Owen Hart's just like one of those things that's just like unfathomable because when you really think about it, like it's not just some wrestler that died, like the nature of his death and the people that were there that night and the way the WWF handled it. It's just horrific. And I feel like, it's one of those things that when you first hear about it, you're like, oh my God, but then being a long-term fan, it's one of those things that you just become desensitized to,
So true.
sadly,
So
because
true.
it's just another piece of law and it's just another piece of iceberg fucking law when, it
You
yeah,
sit and
so
think about it, and you're like, shit. Like,
yeah.
it's great that they're using it as like the honoring his name in this tournament. But
Yeah.
then I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but stuff like this, you just get used to hearing his name, and like you say, you do sort of get desensitized to it a little bit. But yeah, so it's worth remembering that like the wrestlers who are still in the business are probably still really deeply affected by it, and of course he would
Yeah.
be. It's like you say, unfathomable.
But then I think, like, obviously, the whole intention of it and why it got the blessings of Martha and his kids is because it's, me saying this, I'm kind of like, yeah, but then his death becomes more notorious in his career and he doesn't want that and his family don't want
Yeah,
that. So that's
right.
like the whole intention of this is to, and even though that does desensitize it, but it puts more emphasis on his legacy as a wrestler, which I suppose is
That's what
like
you
the long
want.
term good thing. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, like I guess you just don't
Excellent
know, do
point.
you? Like with Jeff Jarrett, like what was going through his head at that point in time. But
Yeah, and
yeah,
not
then
no
we got
criticism to Jeff Jarrett at all.
no, of course, like you didn't mean it like that at all. Uh, Tony Schiavone came out, which I was so happy that Tony Schiavone was better for this week because for him to come out and do the segment with Britt Baker, they have such a long-standing friendship and affection for each other. He's almost like her mentor backstage. She goes to him for advice,
Hmm.
and they've just got such a beautiful little friendship.
Yeah.
And it was lovely that he was there to sort of introduce her. And yeah, I mean, Britt Baker coming back, what can you say? Like we've been waiting for it for so long, and this promo really cleared up a lot of questions because we'd kind of heard of some rumblings of her being like banged up and having an injury and stuff, but this just kind of gave her and like us as the fans like the closure. And I'm glad that she got to do it on her terms when she was ready, like
Yeah.
that she wasn't rushed out to give a statement like 3 months into a hiatus or whatever, that she
Mm.
came back and she talked about all this stuff when she was ready.
Yeah, like she could just completely talk about it on her own terms and tell the full story. It's not like she's come out, she's said why, like a couple of months ago. No, it's all there now. Yeah, yeah. It was emotional.
Yeah, I love those kind of like candid sort of real
Mm.
life promos, like the Becky Lynch one when she was pregnant, and
Mhm.
like the Danielson one when he had to retire because of his injury, the Edge one when he had to retire. Just these really candid, emotional, heart to heart uh promos because you don't really get them a lot, and then it's back to business. And towards the end of this, it was back to business, back in character, but it was just nice to
Mhm.
sort of peek behind the veil, as it were. So she kind of structured this by talking about the past, present, and future. In terms of past, she talked about her injuries, both physical and mental, and how she was pretty banged up and I think burnt out as was because back then, like as we said earlier, the women's division was not what it was today, and she was just a big fish in a really small pond,
Mm.
wasn't she?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So like she had a big burden and also like a big hate train because she's had a massive target on her back and people kind of grew tired, I think, of
Mm.
the overexposure of Britt Baker. But then it's like, what do you do?
Mm.
But paired with that, she was diagnosed with having a TIA after the right side basically was paralyzed, um,
Mini
and was
stroke.
told that she'd had a mini stroke. Um, and
How
obviously,
scary.
when something of that severity happens, like of course you've got to take time off, and that was kind of like a wake up call. But yeah, I mean, when she started talking about this, I was like, I don't know where this is gonna go. You know,
Hmm.
I was like, is this what I think? Like,
Yeah,
is this like a feel good like welcome back promo, or is this something else? You know?
I sort of got that as well because when you're talking about that sort of stuff, that's serious shit. And I've just quickly Googled it. She's only 33 as well, and it, I can imagine how scary that would be. Like, yeah, and
Yeah.
props to her for coming back. And it's the strength and the determination it takes to come back from something like that.
Yeah, and looking at like her body, like the work she's been putting in, the
Mm.
discipline she's been putting in, absolutely. So then it goes to present, and she says she's cleared and healthy, which was lovely to hear. And then she kind of shed light on Forbidden Dawn, how she was feeling self-doubt. I loved the guy that just shouted, "I love you, Brit."
Yeah, me too.
Like me, mood.
I was like, same.
And just kind of, yeah, general gratitude towards the crowd. And then she went to the future. And this was the part that got me. She said that when you're going through a hard time, to really feel that hard time and really go through it because then it'll make it even more worth it at the end.
Yeah.
Just like real and like all of her story that she was talking about and how candid she was being just really struck a chord in me. I actually cried. I was so
Yeah.
emotional.
That did stick with me as well. Just
It was just so
yeah,
heartfelt. I needed to
yeah,
hear that.
yeah, right. That
Yeah,
sentiment is very powerful. It's like
it is.
just proof that you can get through the hard times and it'll be worth it in the end.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that before though. Like
No, me
in that
neither.
way. Like I've heard people be like, yeah, hard times happen, but you go through it and you get through the good times. Woo! But like I've never heard someone be like, fucking feel that pain, so it's gonna be worth
Mm,
it at the other end. Like that's just such a great like general thing to live by.
good life advice.
It is good life advice. And then we got on to the wrestling. So she called out Mercedes, the
That wrestling.
CEO, that wrestling. And what I loved about this is she was going on about the piped in CEO chants, and
Yeah.
then the crowd organically chants back DMD,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
was just such a cool contrast of the two and really set the groundwork, I think.
Yeah. It was funny how she said like she said she could do it. Like she said, "Oh, I don't need people to chant DMD without piped in music," or some words to that effect.
Mm,
But even before she said that, people were chanting it, and then after it, people were doing it. It really was. It was completely organic, like you said.
yeah. And she was still, going on about this and about to say more, but then she was interrupted by the beeping of a car on screen. And then we go outside the arena. Mercedes is getting out. Instant boos, just
Yeah.
raucous boos. Like we were saying earlier, there's no way they can keep presenting her as face and stuff. But I'd have thought this week that the crowd would have not cheer, but I thought there'd still be mixed reactions. But this was straight up heat.
Yeah,
Like
it was.
having Brit there, it was suddenly like, I don't want to play with you anymore. Like just
Yeah.
totally dropped. Um, and then she runs into the books just to really rub
Mm,
it in, and they're like, we've set up this celebration for you because they'd already announced that she was going to do a celebration, but Britt
yeah.
Baker was going to do a promo. But you didn't think they were going to intercept,
No, yeah, that's very true.
so
Yeah.
that was really cool.
Yeah, it was cool how they intercepted like that. And it was, and again, like the talking with the EVPs, it's like confirmed heel turn. Hashtag confirmed. Because it's a good job that the crowd reacted like that because that's obviously what they were going for. You didn't even have to do that for them to be booing.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it was really cool the way they did it so that they, those two segments like just merged into one another. Because then it's that contrast, I think, between them that made it really effective, that made Mercedes that huge heel because everyone wants to cheer Brit, and then you just present in this direct opposition to that. So that was done really
Oh,
well.
and we had such high expectations, didn't we? And this definitely lived up to and exceeded my expectations,
For sure, yeah.
and just kept me so like I was so excited, and I'm just so glad that I'm so excited continuing. But like I say, it was
Mhm.
so fluid. Because as
It
Britt
didn't feel
Baker's in the
forced.
ring, no, and Mercedes is coming down. There's like stage hands and security coming down with balloons
Yeah, yeah.
and photos, and Brit's just there, like bewildered, like in the middle of the ring, like selling it, like what the fuck is going on? It was like I say, it's that contrast, and it was the nonchalance of Monet paired with like Britt Baker just had this heartfelt speech, and yeah, she started to just call out Mercedes, but
Hmm.
yeah, it's and she said this later how Mercedes is trying to steal her moment, just like Brit was stealing hers at Forbidden Door. I thought that was a great little parallel as well.
Hmm.
Um, and in case you didn't like, in case it wasn't clear enough, my little brother was with me watching this show, and he hasn't really seen much of this before. He doesn't really know Mercedes, and he was just like, oh, she's just all about being the center of attention. Her, I was like, yep. If it can get over to a 7-year-old, then it can. It's pretty
Wise
clear
words.
wise
With the
words.
wisdom of children.
Well, he didn't quite understand that CEO. He thought CEO stood for center of attention, so I had to kind of explain that.
Whoa. Don't really work, but like the brain, I love the brain of kids, like they're making like these
Yeah,
connections that don't quite fit, but it makes perfect sense.
it,
Wisdom.
it does make sense. It's when you start jumping through the loops, but yeah, the crowd started chanting "Shut the fuck up" at Monet. So yeah, just
That
very
to,
apparent heel
To
turn.
me, I was like, God, that's like a bit harsh. Like, I know we don't like her, like we want her to be a heel, but Christ, harsh.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just like Britt Baker is that organic babyface, isn't it? And it's like she said later on, she's been there since day one. She was the first woman to be signed. She was holding it down when she is the fifth pillar of
Yeah.
AEW. You know, there's four pillars. Sammy Guevara is not a pillar, by the way. You could also just swap him out for Britt. But she deserves to be just as much remarked as a pillar as the rest of them because she carried that company. And so, we all, especially if you're a dyed in the wool AEW fan, even if, when she first started, you were a big Britt Baker fan, just that familiarity with her and just I think you have respect for anyone who sticks around for a long time, like an Orange Cassidy or
Mm.
even a Darby Allin, you've got to respect those types of people. They're like our people, that have been there for so long. And yeah, so naturally they're gonna root for her. And then Britt just quite frankly just brings it all in. And she said how she wrestled at the first one and she was the first female to sign. She wrestled at Wembley last year. And also, this was a great point. While Mercedes was in the crowd,
Yeah.
broken and beaten up, I was like, that is a great point.
With
She was watching
look,
you.
looking like a broken bitch with a broken leg, I believe was the sentence.
Yeah, there was a lot of bitches dropped.
I love that because
Um,
I had forgotten about that Mercedes was there and how they put the camera on her, didn't they, at certain moments. I was like, shit, what an excellent point you make there, Britt.
this was before she was even signed as well. It
Yeah.
was just like she was just a free agent at that point.
I
Yeah,
was like, that's, I'm sure that wasn't done with, whatever reason she was there and like what I'm sure the plan wasn't, and then Britt can bring this up in a promo in a year's time. But I just love how they brought that in.
yeah. Because like you say, we've said time and time again, there's so much natural history. This story writes
Yeah.
itself. Like, yeah, bring in those reference points, bring in that history. Like, the story doesn't start today
Yeah.
with Monet interrupting Britt Baker. This is like a long-term, like, resentment
Hmm.
that I'm sure has. I'm not saying they hate each other. They could even be best friends in real life. But if I was a co-worker, and I said this before, if I was a female wrestler there, and someone came in and was thrown a bag of money and just got everything handed to him, I'd have resentment, even if I like that person. It's
Hmm.
like Ronda Rousey when she came to WWE. Like, yeah, you can say we were all happy, and of course she would be to some extent. Like, she's going to bring some legitimacy. But if I was part of that female revolution, women's revolution, and then someone comes in and just gets everything handed to him, like, there's going to be
You're gonna
something
be
there.
pissed. You're gonna be
I'm not
pissed.
saying you can't squash that beef, but yeah, you're going to be fucking pissed.
Hmm.
Uh,
You can have a sense of injustice, for
you
definite.
are. So Monet pushes Brit after this, like right in the face. It was so disrespectful.
Mm.
The I love the reactions of people in the crowd, like mouth or jaw, like, oh no, you don't do that. Like it was shocking.
It was like how it was so rude, but it was so like dismissive as well. Like it wasn't
Yeah.
like your typical wrestling where you shove them or you get in the face or something. It was just like,
It was really like bitchy.
yeah, yeah, it was.
Yeah. And she said, she needs to get in the back of the line, bitch. And Brit
Dropping a lot
says,
of bitch
where's the
bombs.
line? Bitch.
I love how
And
wrestling that's like the worst thing you can call someone.
And it just kind of ended with Monet being like, you mess with Monet, there's a price to pay, and holds up a belt. And that was kind of it. But, we'd already got on so much that this is a long story. You don't need to have them like have the physical altercation yet. We
Yeah,
got so much from that promo, from Britt Baker's freaking comeback to Mercedes being established as a heel to their coming into contact with each other. I thought the whole thing was fabulous, and I'm so excited for this storyline.
yeah, I completely agree. Same, 100%. I really like we've already said, well executed. Yeah, you don't need to do too much. You don't need to do too much.
Yeah. So moving on, we got another flashback to Forbidden Door, a little montage of Osprey and Swerve. And then we got an Osprey interview, and now I'm seeing what you're saying. There was a lot of promos back to back. And now I'm reading my notes back. But at the time, I just didn't notice it because I was just caught
Mm.
up in it.
Well,
But
that's a good
yeah,
that's a good sign.
yeah.
That's a good sign.
Um, it was an Osprey interview. He had Kyle Fletcher, um, beside him, and God, he looks beaten up. Like his eye, he had some
Mm.
bruise on his chest. He looks fucked.
Yeah.
And before Renee can really get much out, Callis interrupts, and you think, oh God. And Osprey says, look, I'm not the Tiger Driver guy anymore. I don't want to win like that. But it was refreshing because he was also like, I have a lot of respect for you. And then what made it more refreshing and such a pleasant surprise was Callis turns around and goes, I'll let you walk out with the family, yeah, because you've done so much and I can see you're a star. I'm not gonna hold you back, but if I want a favor one day, you'll repay it. Which is nice because it's like he's not a mug and he's not totally letting him. Callis doesn't look like I can't like an imbecile, like or just letting
Hmm.
him walk out. He's still got some kind of hold over him, but it was just refreshing because, like we said, the Callis family is just convoluting the Osprey situation. It's not doing any favors, and yeah, but then also like it's kind of got me re-interested in Callis because I'm like, ooh, what's the favor? But I'm
Hmm.
glad that we're putting it on the back burner. To me, it was just the best case scenario they could have done with this. So I was on one high, and then I was on an even bigger high. I was like, whoa, he's leaving the family.
Yeah, well, it was interesting how he, like you mentioned, Will was like, you you got me the match against Omega, and even better than that, you got me a match against Jericho at Wembley, and I'll always owe you for that. But I want out of the family, and he just politely asked, which you just like, great, and
You
then
can
you could
do that.
hear
You can do
every,
that in wrestling.
yeah, you can just
Things
politely
don't have to end
ask.
in arguments.
And then you could hear the crowd like being like, yeah, like as if to say, fucking finally. And then, yeah, like you said, then Dom was like, yeah, okay, I'll let you out your contract. Like, I wouldn't do that for anyone, but I'll do it for you. Like I said, he said he wanted a favor, and then they hugged, and he looked, that facial expression was interesting. Like, he
Yeah,
looked pissed,
over the
like he was,
shoulder,
yeah, like he
but he
was
was
planning.
hiding it down.
He's
I
clearly,
don't, but because he said he wants a favor, I don't think he's gonna like do the old thing of he's going to attack him or fuck up his
mm,
match or I don't think that's where it's going, which is really refreshing and I'm so glad. But yeah, it's like you're saying. Also, Kyle Fletcher was interested in this because he was
mm,
very firmly with Will Ospreay, but he's kind of been torn away because after Callis is like, "Come on, Kyle," and he's like a little lapdog, and he looks at him and he has to follow him, and you think maybe Kyle Fletcher's thinking, "Well, why don't I have that privilege?"
hmm
And so it just yeah, I'm not saying like shovel me more Don Callis family, but I'm just glad they've kind of tied it up, but also kept it. It was just the best way to execute it.
yeah, it was best case scenario.
So then we got this was like the only bit of the show that wasn't necessarily bad, but because the rest of the show was such a high, this was like my one bit where I was like, okay, this is like a bit of a dip.
Mm,
Um, which was the Chris Jericho segment. But it did have some
nice.
interesting parts in it. I'll give it that. But I'm so, it's not even that I'm done with the learning tree or anything. Like, I can honestly live with the learning tree. It's just this rotation of Hook, Shibata, and Joe in the vortex, like going around and around, and nothing's happening. And it just doesn't feel like it moves forward. That's the issue.
Hmm. Right.
It feels like whoever's writing this, I mean, I know it's Tony Khan, but the other writers that must be involved and the production team and everyone are just thinking, we don't know what to do with Jericho, so we just need to elongate every feud out.
Mm.
But then it's like you can see right through that.
Yeah, I agree and I see where you're coming from. I don't mind the trio of Hook, Shibata, and Joe because I kind of feel like Joe's like so where Jericho tried to be their mentor, he couldn't, and you know because he was too condescending. He's just a prick. Joe stepped in and been like, "Well, here's what an actual mentor looks like," and has sh shown them his ways, sort of thing. And but I'm not like absolutely thrilled at them, in a six-man tag.
Yeah.
I don't know where I don't think the story's got longevity, but so agree with what you're saying is like they're trying to give it longevity, and it's just like it does feel forced and like just overdone by this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm getting the story note and like, yeah, that's an interesting story, but it's just, and I like the trio with you. I agree. I think they look cool, like a little anime trio. They've all got a different vibe going, but they've all got respect for each other, and it is nice. But I just don't think it should have lasted as long as it
Mm,
has.
mm.
And then bringing in the Gates of Agony, Cage of Agony, like, oh my God, like, can it get any worse, people? Can it get any worse?
Yeah, this is like the throw together match of the evening. It just felt pretty
And everything
random.
else was so tight that this just
Mm.
stood out. Again, it wasn't terrible, and when we get to the rating, like that's going to reflect that. Like it didn't oh my God, like ruin the show for me. But it's
No,
just yeah.
I think
But I like I said,
maybe you sort of needed this type of just purely focused on wrestling sort of match in between the lot of story heavy stuff that we had. Just something of,
but I liked the story more than the
oh
wrestling.
yeah, yeah,
Like the
for
first half
sure.
of this is what was interesting for me, and then the second half was just like purely because I'm just not like the trio. Yeah, I love all those as wrestlers. I think they're fucking amazing, but Gates of Agony just do nothing for me. Brian Cage just does nothing for me. It's just it just does nothing for me.
Hmm.
I felt
Yeah,
nothing.
yeah, I know.
Like
Same.
so anyway, talking about the start, Chris Jericho comes out with a whole tirade of security, and he had some great moments. This was very entertaining. He talked about his need for TV time and Hook committing the cardinal wrestling sin of stealing his finisher.
That doesn't work
And
for
that
everybody.
yeah, it doesn't work for him, brother. And my favorite part, Taz was acting like a mark on commentary
Yes,
for his own
clapping,
son.
clapping and cheering for Hook like a mark. And at that point, the camera was on Taz, and Taz was meant to be like angry at Jericho for saying the shit about him, and Taz couldn't help but laugh,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
really funny.
But like Taz has a great way of like laughing and like, look like he's like pissed off laughing, like not taking him seriously, like, you know,
Yeah, but
with
that
his
felt like
chum.
it was corpsing though.
Yeah, he is a lot throughout the show. You can tell. Um and that he's got this I don't know what you'd say, not a permit. He's got this order, this
Mm.
signed order from the EVPs that Taz is to be removed from commentary because he can't be unbiased and the arena. And so that happens. He's just taken off commentary, which is a shame because he's great on commentary. But for story purposes, it's quite impactful. It's like, oh, fuck, man, like
You
there's
impacted the show.
repercussions. Yeah, you've
Mm.
impacted the show, which is like what the EVPs have been doing all along, haven't they? Like
Yeah.
even with the Monet segment and the Britt Baker stuff, like the hijacking Britt Baker segment, like during Forbidden Door when they had that promo package and it was just totally biased to them. During when they had the exclusive EVP version of the Dynamite intro, the
Mm.
whole time they've been hijacking and breaking the fourth wall. So why would you not remove Taz?
Hmm. Why and how dare Taz cheer on his son?
Yeah,
What a piece of shit.
exactly. So, like I said, that was interesting. And then this was interesting. I like how it led straight into the six man. Even though I didn't
Mm.
care for the wrestling, I liked the presentation of it,
Mm.
which just goes to show it's not the story, it's not the writing, it's not even the character of Chris Jericho as the learning tree because it doesn't irk me. It's just, I don't know. Yeah, yeah, yeah. As I've said, it's just bloody cage of agony. Yeah, it is a cage of agony, a cage of boredom. Uh,
Feel like I'm in a cage of agony having to watch them.
Yeah. So, you know what? The good bit was the ending. I liked the three elevated suplexes that then went into the submissions. that
Yeah,
brought the win. The match
they
itself
all
was fine.
they all reversed it at the same time, and then all the Cage of Agony tapped out at the same time. It's like it's cheesy, but I love that.
Yeah, that was really fun. And the match is good, but
Yeah,
I
it was a
thought,
pretty
okay,
good
some good
match.
points about the match. I'll say that it was a great showcase for Hook, and that was it really. Like,
Mm.
there's only so much I can see Samoa Joe with another bigger wrestler, which is fine if the bigger wrestler is someone who is actually quite enjoyable to watch. But when it's just like generic mid-card, a big wrestler, I'm like, it's
When
just a bit interchangeable for me. It's just a bit
yeah,
like, oh, of course we'd structure the match like that. Of course we'll like have this bit, and then the comms will be like, oh, look at these two big guys going at it. You'll love to see it. I'm just like, okay.
and
Why
they're
don't they ever
not.
say that about the Short Kings?
Look at these two little guys in the
Why
middle
don't
of
they
it.
get like Wheeler Yuta and Hook together and be like, you love to see these little twinks going at each other? Like, why don't they ever fucking sell it like that?
Because we
The
like meat.
beatdown was fun. Yeah, well, it'll be the opposite of me. I guess like the tofu chant that they had for Jay White.
Yeah,
But the beatdown was cool because one thing I really liked about the beatdown was Brian Keefe attacking Shibata with the chair and snapping his arm just as he
yeah,
had done on Collision to Brian Keefe. Thought that was a really nice touch.
yeah. Got that continuity and that revenge.
Yeah, and then there was quite a brutal beatdown in the element that
Yeah.
Jericho had the knuckle duster out. They had Hook hoisted up and yeah, just knocked him out. And then Bill put him through a table as well, as if that wasn't enough.
Mm.
And then I wrote here, where's Christopher Daniels? And then he came out at the end, but I was like, at this point, like, this guy also has, and on commentary, they were like, no one wants to come out, like, no one's got authority because of the EVPs. But I'm like, and
Is
Christopher Daniels got authority
isn't that the
because he's,
point?
and yeah. And then he gave a fuck about Daniel Garcia, didn't he? He didn't give a fuck about
Mm.
Hook. Left him at Wolves. He
Favoritism.
was like, nah, mate, I ain't touching that Jericho angle in kayfabe. I ain't touching that. I'm not going in that vortex.
You guys deal with that.
Oh my God, this is like one of the big pieces of news. Yeah, if I had to break into three, I'd say Britt Baker, Hangman, and then the MJF thing. This was, yeah, yeah. So as we said, this is for the Owen Hart Tournament semi-finals. We know that it's Jeff Jarrett. We know it's a wild card. Jeff Jarrett makes his entrance. It was really cool because all of Team TNA came out and clapped for him like NPCs while he walked down, which I found really funny. And then Hangman comes out, and he's got a new theme, which also like how cool does that theme sound?
Yeah, yeah, it was cool. It was that sort of that like didn't give the immediate pop. Like you know when someone's music hits and you know it, and it that makes
Yeah,
everyone pop. It was quite a nice sort of change from that. But as soon as that horse came on the screen, everyone was like,
you
"Oh,
knew.
I know who the fuck this is."
Yeah, and just really cool. Like definitely more villainous sounding. Sounds like something like his old one was great, but this one like yeah, this definitely matches his heel character more. And then his whole
Mm.
presentation, he came out and he was like dark, like a shadow because of the lighting, and he came out with a smoke. It was so like they've really been hitting it with the presentation lately of their
Mm.
characters. And yeah, I mean, oh my God, like Hangman's back. And then also not only is he back, but he's got this new presentation and he's not he's been off, bless him, but he's not come back and like refreshed. He's come back and he's like just as pissed off, if
Yeah,
not
right.
more. Like he's just fucking picking up right where he came off. Um,
And I thought it was really interesting how commentary made a big point of saying this is the wild card that the elite chose. And they were
mm,
like questioning have they put the past behind them? They suspended him. They said he was out of the
yeah,
elite, but have they put that behind him, sort of thing. So they, from the get-go, they were pushing that pretty hard, pushing that story.
yeah, definitely. And obviously he's a completely different man from what he was during. We've never truly seen this side of Hangman for his whole wrestling career. This is like total uncharted
Mm.
waters with him. With the MJF thing, it's like not to say that it's not shocking or anything, but we know that character, we know that heel character, and we know the I mean, still it was fucking mental, but we know the lengths they'll go to. But this Hangman, there's something that's kind of scary about it, and I found
Yeah.
like the MJF thing quite scary. Like if I was a kid watching this, like I think I would have been scared, because it, yeah, like just a real like you don't know what lengths he's gonna go to, and I mean, especially when he gets his hands on Swerve,
Yeah.
considering what we saw in the death match, and just his absolute focus, like all he can think about as he's going down the ramp, instantly you've got the media literacy to tell instantaneously that this is all about Swerve. You don't even need to cut a promo. He's gone into this Owen for Swerve. Don't give a fuck who stands in his way.
Mm,
Yeah, just yeah, I mean, just so aggressive. That power bomb on the edge of the ring, on the
yeah.
edge of the apron. To Jeff bloody Jarrett, who is an OAP, he's a senior citizen. Come on. You don't do those type of spots with Jeff Jarrett.
That's no, you're right, and that's like what they were trying to get over. Like he was trying to kill Jeff Jarrett. It was straight up murder, and immediately it made everyone in the crowd, even if they were excited about him coming back, turn on him instantly, as well as commentary, like along the lines of what you were saying, like how can he do this to Jeff Jarrett? Like why is he doing this sort of thing? Like what's the need?
Yeah,
But I
like
feel like that,
chewing on him, biting his head.
yeah, my God.
And a lot of the times, like we said before, we've talked about the structure of a tournament match and how you want to win and how you get that over. And yeah, you can have a slower pace, but at the end of the day, it's just business most of the time, isn't it?
Hmm.
Even when it's personal with Stat and Willow, she could have kept beating her down and beating her down, but she didn't. She just took the quick win, the quick roll up. That's why a lot of these wins are roll ups. But in this match, it was just about punishment
Yes.
over Jeff Jarrett, who is completely innocent. Like, yeah, he's his opponent. Yeah, he needs to beat him. Case in point, beat him, pin him 1, 2, 3 as fast as possible. He
Which he
doesn't need to
wasn't doing.
brutalize the man.
Yeah. And they made a point of saying that as well. He wasn't going for the cover at certain points where he probably could have won. He's deciding to just to beat down on him instead.
Yeah, and it's like everyone he goes against, doesn't matter who they are, everyone is just Swerve to him. Everyone is just a means to an end
Yeah.
to Swerve.
I
The
feel
ring
like
psychology is just insane.
I feel like the fucking crowd were like paid actors in this because they were chanting
Yeah.
Swerve's house like at him repeatedly. It's like it just played out so perfectly to like what you said, like the story they're trying to tell with it. Yeah, props to the Chicago crowd. They were playing their part.
Yeah, he totally lost his composure during those parts, and the crowd really understood because that's the story they're trying to tell. And I do agree with it though, like Tony Schiavone made a little comment of like it is sad that they're not chanting Jeff Jarrett's name. And obviously I do think that that subplot of the Owen Hart and him being like his friend and him wanting it made him sympathetic, like you say. And Tony Schiavone was like, it's understandable, but at the same time, it's like the crowd really understood. Like the crowd was too smart, they knew where it was
Mm,
going and they weren't just gonna.
yeah, that's true. I think it gave them maybe more reason to get behind Jeff than they would have done
Yeah.
otherwise, though, as well. So when he had those moments of coming back, that made that more impactful and made people want to cheer.
Yeah. Um, in particular, I think that was after he did the sharpshooter. He baited him in for the
Yeah.
buckshot, and he did the sharpshooter, the one-legged, hooked it round just like Owen did, and it was a lovely little, you know, very difficult to pay tribute in this type of match where it's not like if you've got a technical match and you can kind of show Owen's technical, because he was a great technical wrestler, and you can do those Hart family spots, and you could really sell the spirit.
Hmm.
But in this type of match, it's quite difficult to do that, but he still managed to do
Yeah.
that. Even though it's like, how do you overcome it? Like the crowds, being like Swerve's house and Hangman's really driven, as he should be. I'm not like saying don't do any of this stuff, but I'm just saying, credit to
Hmm.
Jeff Jarrett for also weaving that story in when there
100%.
wasn't a lot of room to weave it in.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, but he won. He did the buckshot lariat, then just absolutely clobbered the poor man. Then went for the dead eye, and yeah, it was just a broken man left to be attended to by Karen.
Literally murdered him.
So, as I said, based on Collision, it's Jay White versus Danielson, and that's going to be who takes on Hangman. So, we don't record for Collision. So, like I said, what's your prediction? Jay White versus Danielson. You know, that one's maybe a little bit less clear than whoever goes on to face Hangman, where I think Hangman will win. Who's going
I
to win?
instinctively I think Brian, but I don't really
I
know.
think so too.
I don't really know why. I just think I just don't see. I think the story's there more with Brian. It's more, he's trying to prove himself. He wants to get back up to the top. It might be his last big thing that he does in it, maybe in his career.
I think you have to because Jay White's also a
Yeah.
heel, although he's not that. I feel like there's levels of heels in AEW because it is more a heel based product.
Mm-hmm.
Jay White is quite low on the rungs of being a bastard of a heel. He can get there. He can be the sickest motherfucker out there, don't get me wrong. But at the minute he's just fucking about with bloody body glitter and trikes with his little gang, his little bang bang gang. So I don't think you can put like I think yeah, the crowd would get more behind Jay White, but do you want to give him that babyface reaction?
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah.
Also, like I said, Danielson's more empathetic and I mean, sympathetic, and he'll get more, like you say, he's got that whole thing of like trying to get that comeback, and then Hangman's just going to steamroll him. But I think it's just more about, like, from my perspective, like, because my priorities are like protecting Jay White, and so I think him losing to Danielson isn't that bad at all because I think it'll be like a tight match, and Danielson will just get the win, or maybe it'll be like by a distraction of like, I don't know, like Juice getting involved or one of the guns. So I think it protects him all. But I think if he loses to Hangman, I don't know. I just think it. I don't know. I think that would do a bit more harm to him. Not only the
Yes.
reaction, but I just think it establishes him as lower than those other guys. And even though he's not in the top at the minute, I just think you kind of try to preserve that character. If what you're doing is keeping him on the back burner, when you go to a restaurant and you've got that little dish under the little oven heaters before you give them out, like server
Yeah.
gives them out to you. We're still waiting. We've got the burger of Jay White. We're still waiting on like the fries and like the little salad and whatever. Keep him warm.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't throw it out. Don't serve it prematurely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good metaphor.
So yeah, it's the most random analogies always. But yeah, just so happy to have him back. We've been going on about it every day. Oh, will Hangman come back? Will Hangman come back?
Were you
But I almost gaslighted myself. I thought he's not going to come back.
Yeah,
I said
that's
it.
what I was just about
like,
to ask.
It's going to be a jobber.
A jobber, as if.
It's going to be Sammy Guevara's big return.
Oh, yeah. Thank God it wasn't.
Yeah. Well, we might get Sammy Guevara for Team AEW.
Oh, no thanks.
But do you think that Tony Khan's maybe gone off Sammy Guevara and that's why he's not bringing him back because he just doesn't know what to do with him? So he's just like, yeah, you're still in trouble with Jeff Hardy, even though he's not with the company anymore.
Oh, yeah, that's what
So
happened.
really, there's no real reason for us to like have you out.
Yeah, yeah, that's what happened, isn't it? Is this suspension like coming up like soon?
It was he didn't give a time frame on it. He was just like, you're suspended.
Right. Okay. So indefinitely until we've got something for you.
Yeah, but as I say, I'm pleasantly very surprised, and yeah, can't wait to. And we're gonna get Swerve Hangman.
Oh my God.
Oh my God! And I'm so glad they've gone down that route. And just one thing, we're not going into the news. There isn't that much news, but I just wanted to ask if you'd heard about Osprey being a lot, very vocal in wanting to lose at Forbidden Door.
I have heard that. Yes, I have that he didn't want he it's something along the lines of like he didn't want people to dismiss Swerve as like this transitional champion type of situation.
And MJF as well, also stating that. And I just think that's lovely that they've gotten behind him like that.
Yeah.
And what a healthy working environment. And also like all these guys they're not in they're not in business for themselves, you know.
hmm
Um,
Got each other's backs.
despite what
Rising
some may
tide
say.
lifts all boats, as they say.
Yeah. So, but I just thought that was lovely that not that I didn't gather that he had a problem with losing, but also that he was so vocal in it and
Yeah.
that was never
He's
the direction
advocating
and
for
that
it.
we worked ourselves, you know, into thinking like, oh, and it would have been great, but you know, we'll get that in the future again. But I'm just so glad that, and compare last year's All In to this year's All In, we didn't know like hardly any of the matches, did we? Like a couple of days before we went.
Oh my God, yeah. And people and
Remember that?
that was big criticism of the event, wasn't it?
This year's complete opposite, isn't it?
Mm. Feels like it could have it next week.
Sorry, I just read my notes. The next part I forgot about. So Hook's shown in medical, which is like, okay. Big Bill just comes in, screams in his face, starts beating him down, like, all right, along with Brian Keith. And then a fireball just comes out of nowhere, like hits his face, like a literal fireball. And then that was it. I guess he's reclaimed his wizard gimmick as well. I
Yeah.
enjoyed the wizard gimmick, but I just thought, what the hell? Like, did we really need it was funny, but like you've beaten him down with a knuckle duster, you've taken him through a table, you've beaten him at the end of the match, and now he's got a fireball as well. I just thought, oh my God.
Yeah, just as if you needed anything else, just that as well.
Just a bit
Why
stupid.
not?
Yeah, and then we got the Hangman interview, which you alluded to. The EVP's welcoming him back. And Hangman looking bewildered even. He looked like Alex the Lion at the end of Madagascar when he's gone mental and he's living with the Fusas. That's what it reminded me of, like his eyes. He's got them crazy eyes going on.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah. That's
See
not
the
what came
vision.
that yeah, I see the vision. I do.
But my mind works in strange ways. They were pushing for him to be the fifth man, and he basically just said, I'm in the Owen. All I can think about is the Owen. I want Swerve. I want the world title. And then kind of shoved past Nicholas, who cut the segment. So,
Hmm.
what do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, that was really interesting to me. I feel like it kind of leaves the door open for something because he's kind of like, this is what I'm focusing on right now. But just, I think what I took from that is he's probably the first person who has properly stood up to the books, like in that sort of direct sense of they were talking down on him, and he got physical with them like then and there. So he was like, I can't. He didn't even give them the time of day.
There's this huge character development because they
Yeah.
always have. Like, even in the long term storytelling back in Japan, when Kenny brought Hangman in, the books never liked him and they kind of like begrudgingly liked him. And then they formed a real friendship. But he's always kind of been the spare, and they did the big storyline about it, you know, when the books were like, choose your friends, Kenny. Who are your real friends? Like, just
Yeah.
getting really jealous about him. You know, they've always kind of had a weird dynamic, and Hangman's kind of always been a bit emotionally vulnerable, like with his
Yeah.
alcohol, and you know, in a way, it's sad because it's as a heel that he's standing up for himself, but
Mm.
like, you know, it's kind of nice to see him, you know, grow a backbone and
Yeah, defo. It's like if you take like one sort of positive from the situation, it's that he's learned to defend himself and stick up for
he's
himself.
out of his people pleaser era.
hmm Love
What
that.
an inspiration.
Love
Love
that
that
for
for
him.
him. Yeah. But yeah, like I say, it's quite open, isn't it? Because he could
Yeah.
still be the fifth man, you know. He didn't. I
He
feel
didn't
like the
completely
books
shut it
aren't gonna.
down
He was like, no, but
for now.
yeah, you could tell that maybe they could keep wearing him down, sort of thing. Maybe if
Mm.
they promise him Swerve All In, maybe that could
Mm.
be enough to get him to move in their direction, sort of thing.
Yeah,
Because I think they're like, oh shit, like we've got a loose cannonball right now. We need to control this. So I don't know whether they're just the
for real.
books are just going to walk away from it
Yeah,
because they
you
kind of need to put out that fire.
so true. Yeah, and they probably see the chance to manipulate him as well.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So now, are you ready? I mean, I feel like I've just everything we've been through already, and we've still got this massive main event to get through.
This was the thing, like I was looking at like, like just when the show was going on and they were putting graphics of what was coming next, I was like, Christ, there was just it was just so much.
Yeah, this was towards like the 25-minute, half an hour mark. It was for the Intercontinental title, so international
Mm.
title, I should say. I always get those two confused. Same with, I was going to say another belt. Anyway, not important. Um, yeah. So it was going to get some time anyway, and
Yeah.
it's Osprey, Daniel Garcia. They've built this for a long time, but also I was thinking like, okay, okay, and MJF's on the side. So yeah, it starts out quite vanilla. Daniel Garcia comes out, MJF accompanies him. It's all very wholesome. Osprey comes out. Osprey's looking physically fucked.
Mm.
Commentary make a great point about how Daniel Garcia didn't have to wrestle at Forbidden Door, which yeah, he was just up there in his little booth, wasn't he? Probably having a little beverado, just watching the graps.
Looking so stunning and just chilling.
He was dripped out, and yeah, it was just a great match. It's to be expected, and I thought Daniel Garcia really showed up. And I've always thought, in terms of wrestling ability, he's always been a great worker, but he really went toe to toe with Osprey and kept up with him. And I think if you can go toe to toe
Yeah.
with Osprey and perform a match of that caliber, then yeah, like yeah, it's believable. And I'm more likely to like root for you to be in those higher positions. And he's had great matches with other people as well. Like, but the thing is, Daniel Garcia is there's always a lot of space in between these big matches, but it just like
Right.
refreshed it. And I'm like,
Mm.
oh
Yeah, it
yeah,
just
he is really good.
gives you that reminder, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And Max wasn't really getting involved too much. There was one stare down with Osprey when
Yeah.
he didn't even go to help Daniel Garcia. This was when he was outside the ring. And he was just cheering him on and like, come on, Daniel, like. And Osprey kind of looked at him like, yeah, you better just be cheering him on, like, don't you fucking dare intervene. And so he
Hmm.
just kind of walked back, like, oh, okay. But it was still like, I still thought at this point, like, oh, there's going to be some kind of fallout with Osprey. I thought that's what's happening, but I didn't, especially with that stare down, but I didn't think like the murder scene that happened was coming at
Yeah.
this point.
I kind of
Did
thought that
you?
MJF was my mind for some reason went he's gonna help Daniel win and Daniel's gonna win because
Which
and
kind of like where you thought it was going, wasn't it? With the
yeah.
ring.
And yes, exactly. And I was thinking that maybe that's because he wants the belt, but he's not sure if he can beat Osprey, but he knows he can beat Daniel, so he's kind of trying to set up that match.
Yeah.
He's just like manipulating the situation so that he can get the belt eventually in the end. Um, so yeah, that's where my mind went. And yeah, like you say, offered in the ring. And how many times has MJF won a match with that?
Yeah, it's very iconic and we haven't really seen it since he's returned. He got his ring out like Smeagol, turned into Gollum. Um, Maybe that is the root of all of his evil, though, is that ring. He's only started turning evil with the ring. Maybe the ring corrupts, or some magic properties or something.
That is an
We've already got a
exceptionally good
wizard.
point.
We've got a wizard, haven't we? Like, let's go fantasy. Let's just
We've got a few hobbits. We've got Hook.
just like the dunking of the Short Kings this episode. But yeah, like he got the ring out and he gave it to him, didn't he? And he he was about to use it, but he didn't. And just as he gave it back, Osprey gave him the hidden blade and won. And this was a great parallel to Osprey's match with Swerve, where Don Callis
Yes.
gave him the screwdriver and he relinquished
Yes.
it because he wanted to win honorably. And it showed you even more like, yeah, Daniel Garcia and Osprey are more alike than you even think. They're both very
Yeah.
honorable and noble.
Yeah.
And even the ending, when Daniel Garcia was crying, which I was like, is he actually crying? Like, is that a real reaction to the match, or is that on purpose to parallel the Osprey match where Osprey was crying and Swerve said
Mhm.
those words, but now Osprey had to be the one to comfort Daniel Garcia. So it was just a really full circle moment. It was
Yeah.
very wholesome, very beautiful. But oh my God, this camera shot was art. This camera shot was amazing. So they're there in the corner and just watching him, like, just with the most disdain in his eyes is MJF, and it was just this camera shot just said a
Yeah.
thousand words.
Yeah. It was like it was Osprey trying to convince Daniel like it's okay. You are good enough. Trying to comfort him. He's dead emotional, and MJF is watching on in the background, looking like jealous. He's
Yeah,
he knows that he fucked it up. It was because that's how they framed it, wasn't it? It was he tried to help Daniel, ended up being the reason that he lost the match. So
yeah.
he's feeling conflicted. He's having flashbacks to Adam Page because he's like, I'm such a shit friend. I can't do anything right. I'm a shit friend. Yeah, that angle was just perfect.
It was. And yeah, like you say, he owned up to him as well. He
Mm,
Because Osprey, after saying the few words, vacates the ring. So it's just Daniel Garcia, bless him. It's like retelling this. It's like a horror story. Like you want to
yeah.
save it, like, but you can't. He helps Daniel Garcia to his feet, and he has this really also heartfelt moment. But does that heartfelt moment strike as strong of a chord when Osprey's kind of still in the limelight by being the mentor to kind of, you know, comfort him? Because MJF's like, don't worry, like you did your best, like it's my fault, but it's like he's already been comforted by Osprey,
Mm,
and yeah, like all those frustrations come to the surface, and similarly to Hangman attacking Jeff Jarrett, it's in the way that he did. It's not necessarily Daniel Garcia. It's more what Daniel Garcia represents, and it's more Osprey and the hatred. And he just got crossed in the crosshairs, and so he does that typical spot that he does every match where he baits him in with the handshake and then kicks him in the dick. And that's what he does to Daniel Garcia, which would have been brutal enough had it just been that. Then he puts the ring on and takes well, I think actually he took out Daddy Magic first.
yes, he did with the ring. Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
He just jumped on the apron trying to come help, and he just got taken the fuck out before like you
yeah,
could even see who it was.
yeah, because he was on he was on commentary, I don't think he was. But he was obviously in the back because he was the one also, you got to think from Daddy Magic's perspective, he was the one who gave the blessing for this guy to go out at the start of the
Mm,
segment of the show.
yeah,
So the guilt he must be feeling in that instance, he gets busted open
yeah.
badly, as does Daniel Garcia after he gets hit with the ring, which just made this whole thing just oh, it was disturbing.
It.
And I'm very desensitized to blood and
Mm,
violence in general, and especially in wrestling. And I love MJF, and MJF's like a cool character. He's a cool heel, and it was like I forgot just how evil he was. Like when it was like suddenly all the memories of heel Max came back to me and what he was like before. It was just like a reminder of just how low he can get. And he didn't
yes.
miss a beat. I thought, will he be able to get back the same heat that he got when he's heel? No way. And he did in like
Yes.
this segment.
I was sort of gutted because I love MJF. I love him so much, and I want to cheer him, but he's so like you said, he's so much of a good heel that you just don't want to. But that heat, but yeah, the blood, like you were saying, like added something extra to this because it would,
with his wife beater on and the visual of him being covered in blood. And I think it
and
was
his
this point where he
blood was all
lifted him up.
covering.
Daniel Garcia's got like snot and like spit coming out. He's
Yeah,
committed to the bit. He looks like a slaughtered lamb, and he's
yeah,
holding him by his head like he's almost beheaded, and he's just holding him like, "This is your boy, this is your boy," like in the camera, like he'd actually lost it.
yeah,
It was just, it was like, what the hell is going on?
yeah.
Like,
It
we need,
wasn't.
no, like, we need help. Like, someone help this man.
It wasn't like your typical beatdown. It was like it was so much more intense than oh
It was so
he turned on
emotional.
someone. Yeah, yeah. That's what MJF is really good at. The emotions and putting that across. Um, yeah. Again, like you said, the moment when he like pulled him up by his head and his face, he looked like he was like suffocating, like he couldn't
Like a
breathe.
murder victim.
Yeah,
Like, it
exactly.
felt like watching a murder in like a horror movie.
Yeah.
And, it's also like, but you understood what the steps were that got Max to this point because also, like, Max never got over the betrayal of Adam Cole, and he
No.
never got to have it out with him either.
Yeah.
Which I think, had he have done that, like,
You
would
get
you have
that
been able to do
closure.
this after the Adam Cole feud? Probably not, because the character would be in a different headspace. But
Yeah.
he never got it. Yeah, he never got that closure, and he's come back, and yeah, it's been. I thought like, oh, he's going to be sort of in like his Austin era, his Rock era, like.
Hmm.
Yeah, he's just kind of doing whatever he wants, and he's like this new hybrid heel and this new hybrid character, but that was not the case. But I mean, if the long-term plan is for him to go against Osprey and you want to turn him heel, Max, when I finished this show, I thought that was a red hot show, and I thought that is a fucking red hot angle. And it's like, yeah, he could have gone into All In, and he can go against Osprey and just be like himself and make silly jokes and
Mm.
roast him, and he's so cool and edgy, and I love that, Max. But also, is that hot? Is that piping hot? Is that
Mm.
like he's going to open Collision on Saturday? People are going to watch that. People are going to
So
fucking
true.
watch that. And if
So
you want to
true.
help ratings and you want to get hot angle, he understands that better than anyone, I think.
So true. And you know what? I maybe wondered as well if maybe instead of MJF versus Osprey like 1-1 at Wembley for the belt, maybe you stick Daniel in there as well. You have a triple threat.
Do you think?
No, I don't know if they would actually do that, but
That's
that's
like I think like it's interesting, like even you could even get away with maybe Daniel Garcia, MJF, maybe like blood and guts, but I think like how do you balance out the interaction between Osprey and Daniel Garcia?
yeah,
Because I think it's gonna be a blood match at Wembley now because
yeah,
how
right.
it can't be just like a clean who's the best wrestler, like
No, definitely
winning for
not.
the belts. Like it literally can't be that. Like this has taken it to a whole other level.
And
So I think if it had been like that sort of technical, let's throw him in and he can
mm,
prove that he's the best and Max is like gobbing off and stuff, then I think yeah, in that you can, but I think now it's just oh
too intense. That's just a
it
vision that I had
is.
when all three of them were there. Because then Osprey tried to come out, didn't he, to come help Garcia after that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um
And then yeah, then that's
yeah, I
eventually
think it
when
was
Christopher Daniels
the
came out.
security came out first.
Hmm.
And then he just continued to assault them and Daniel Garcia. Like I said, the visuals were awful at this point. And then yeah, you're right. Um, Daniels came out, and then there was the pile driver off the top rope
Fucking
just to
brutal.
seal the deal. Which um, Garcia so brilliantly he was kind of like tremoring, like giving that sort of like unconscious
Seizure cell.
muzzle spasm, the seizure cell. Uh, yeah, very sensitive after the Britt Baker segment, but yeah, keeping it real. And yeah, at that point, yeah, Christopher Daniels finally got off his ass out of catering. He
Yeah.
was like, do you think maybe he was just watching it on TV? Like, he's in catering, like, eating his fucking burger, and people are like, do you think you should go out there, lad? And
And
he's
he,
like, nah, it'll be fine. Keeps eating, like, I think you should go out there, mate. Like, he sees the pile driver, he's like, oh, fuck yeah. I better go
up
out.
up until that point, he was like, "Wait, let them cook."
Let me have another bite. Let them cook. Yeah. And then, like you said, Osprey came out, but it was Osprey coming out that chased Max off, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that was like shades of that cowardly. But especially after we'd had the what match was it that he had before Hechicero?
Um. Oh God, I can't remember.
Because Hechicero, I was going to say, wasn't it was quite a cocky match.
Hmm.
But the match before he had, I can't remember which one it was, but he was very like he was taking lots of risks, wasn't he, and doing like high maneuvers, and he was kind of fighting in such a babyface style. Because I remember commenting on that show and being like, "Oh my God, like who would have thought he'd wrestle like this?" To now going back to total just cowardly,
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
And
I
then
was expecting it, to be honest.
his interactions with the crowd
Yeah, he was just
were
squaring
just
up to fans.
and fans like the heat he had were like people were ready to fight him. Like it
Yes.
was in, and then he was throwing rubbish at people.
Yeah.
Like
It
it,
was quite hard to miss this bit, but Ian spotted this bit and I didn't. I had to rewind to see it, but some fan was like filming him when he walked past and like batted his phone out of his hand. And the fan
oh
was like,
my God.
which you would be, because he probably just broke his phone.
I mean, it was just, it was just insane and just left you in shock and like say like we're still. I've not even processed it. I won't even process it like on Saturday when he comes out and he'll deliver like an absolute salt of the
Killer
earth
promo.
promo. But you know, you have to think like still in his mind, like it all makes sense, like why he's doing this.
Mm,
So in a way, it doesn't. You'd think because you have that empathy for him to an extent, because you understand it'd make you hate him less. But still, like for me right now, like I think he's on par with like early Dynamite MJF.
yeah, because it was so brutal. What he
It was
did
just so
to,
believable.
yeah, 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 yeah,
And the interactions with the fans and going back to total, like he's never really broken kayfabe much, but he did a little bit when he was babyface, but just completely going, yeah, balls to the wall and just, yeah, brutal, like genuinely scary.
yeah. What you were saying before, like if I was a kid watching this, I would be scared, like for sure.
I mean, I
I
was
remember,
scared as a
yeah,
23-year-old woman.
yeah. I remember watching things like Triple H and his sledgehammer, whatever, stuff like that, and how real it felt. Like this was sort of it was like that real sort of violence and like God, this is a dangerous man.
I remember last time I've seen something that emotional and that violent.
Mm,
It really pushed the envelope. I'd say like maybe Swerve's kind of pushed it a little bit, like maybe
yeah,
the Nick Wayne drive-by when they went and they sort of beat him up. But I think Swerve was already a heel, so you didn't have that sort of betrayal as well.
true. Yeah, yeah.
But like that also pushed the envelope. But this still takes the cake for me for just woo.
Oh,
Uh, and you know, this was still somehow on a sponsored Shark Week. I'm sure they sold it to the exec board. Like, yeah, like they did the whole Briscoe thing of, well, blood, sharks like blood, blood in
yeah.
the water, shark fight. Like,
Yeah, that's why I was so
I
surprised when they were
loved
bleeding.
the Shark Week fan hats that people had. I want a. Did you see about that in the audience?
I no, actually.
Oh, people had these massive like paper mache like shark hats on.
Maybe I did see that and I just
It
thought
was
that's just another wrestling
brilliant.
fan being weird. Didn't think anything of it.
No, I think they were just being given it for free as like
Nice.
advertisement.
Nice. Get that bag. But yeah, that's why I was surprised when there was so much blood because I was like, this is like TV. This is regular programming.
And so the rating for Dynamite, we need to discuss that.
Oh yeah.
Um, I had an absolute fabulous time with this show, and I've been rating it so low recently. I think I gave the Go Home show quite a high score, though. I think I gave it an 8. I unfortunately the Jericho and the Cage of Agony, I have to bring it into account because I don't just want to give it a 10 out of show. To me is like perfect. There was no flaws, and
Mm.
that was just a little. It just it didn't work for me entirely. So I'd be willing to go for. I'd even be willing to go for a 9.75.
Oh,
Honestly, it was that good for me. I wish I could give it a 10, but I can't. Originally, I was thinking 9.5, but I was thinking, like, was the Jericho thing like that big of a deal? And I'm like, it was one segment. So 9.75, honestly, because, you got Britt Baker's return, who's like my favorite female wrestler. Just loved her since the start. Just so happy to have her back. Hangman coming back, which is just total, uh, just a total dream. And then Max's heel turn. On top of that, we had amazing matches. We had Wheeler versus Start, which was short but amazing. We had Danielson versus Park, which was amazing. And then, can't take away from our main event, which, although the fallout overshadowed it, it was a fantastic match. And the story progression from start to finish, and then Will Ospreay leaving the Don Callis family, that deserves a 10 out of 10 show in itself. So where do you stand on it?
yeah, I was gonna say 9, but like not. I'm convinced with like everything that you said because I was
Yeah.
thinking just take a point off for the Jericho thing, but what excellent point that it wasn't really that big of a deal, and the match was still okay. Um, so I mean, it makes sense to keep it like that. 9.75 works for me.
Yeah, we can do 9.5. It's just, will we ever get a match? Will we ever get a show of this caliber? And I'm not just giving it just for like, oh, one good thing happened suddenly, give it 10 stars. But I'm just thinking like, you have to be realistic about your expectations, I
Mm.
think. And I think it can be easy to get caught up in like, the thinking rather than the feeling. And I'm just thinking like what this show, the roller coaster this show took me on,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
it was priceless. And I haven't had that in a very long time, especially with AEW.
Mm.
So
And like you say, when will you get something like that again? Because the amount of things that it's like it's a one-off thing, like people returning.
So
Um,
what's above it, Because like I guess my point is like if that's a
yeah,
9.5, then if that says a 9, then what's a 9.5? For a 10, I know it's flawless and there's no flaws in it whatsoever.
yeah,
So I'm thinking, yeah.
yeah. No, I
Because we have to think about
convincing
the long-term legitimacy of
the
our ranking system, which I
the
take very
integrity
seriously.
the
The
integrity of
integrity,
our
yeah.
of our numbers. We should keep all these on a spreadsheet, by the way.
Yeah, I
Love
will
love
see.
me a
But I was thinking at the
spreadsheet.
end of the year, how fun would it be to see what the shittest dynamite was and the best dynamite? We could just go for a quick summary of what happened on
Oh,
those shows.
that's a great idea. And like compare
Because
them
we
and
want to do
stuff.
like an end of year thing of best match, best wrestler, rising star. Basically just copying everyone else, especially, the Wrestling Observer newsletter, but ours will be the most correct opinion, of course.
Of
But it would be
that'd be
fun to have
so.
that little
What'd be
stat in
really
there as well.
interesting would be to like an average of the ratings that we've like throughout
Yeah,
the year, and yeah, like a graph.
just a nerdy stat fest, a
Oh my God,
presentation.
spreadsheet. Get that
Oh,
spreadsheet. Yeah. No, I agree with you. 9.75.
okay, there you go, guys. 9.75, our highest rated show of the year so far, and potentially for the rest of the year. Who knows?
We take a lot to top it, for
There's
sure.
a lot to talk about, so please share your comments. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a plethora. You could just, yeah, please tell us any and all opinions you have.
Yeah, and where do we go from here? What's next in all these massive stories? Let us know what you think. And if you're listening on Spotify, please rate the podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, then obviously like and subscribe. That'd be amazing. And yeah, thank you for all the support. Thanks for watching. Yeah.
Yep, thanks for joining us.
I must bid you adieu, goodbye, and good night, bye.
I wish you died in the womb!